So the way I've always seen Chicago is as an epicenter of urban America. You know, a lot of policies, legislation, and environmental practices. I think that's a good way to phrase it. You know, a lot of that comes from. I can't help but feel like Chicago is just the biggest example of these things that take place in almost every hood in America, from Little Rock to Newark to New York to Florida, like all over the country. I believe, all of these states, even Idaho. I know Idaho has a hood. Like these places are, it's hard living. It's a hard life in these communities. And so I found this article here from the Chicago Sun Times, and I want to go over a little bit because I find it very, very interesting. 45% of Chicago's young black men are out of school and jobless, new report says. Jay Mateus, 18, spoke at a student rally about gun violence and joblessness among youth in low-income Chicago communities Friday. Wait. Okay. By Nirmal Mulakal and Nadir Issa. Over the past 6 months, Jay Mateus applied for more than 22 jobs at grocery stores, restaurants, and home improvement retailers, but hasn't landed anything. It's tough. I want to help my mom and dad out, but I've been struggling to find a job, said Mateus, a senior at Pedro Albizu Campus High School in Humboldt Park. I'm used to not getting a call back, not getting a job, not being accepted. Wait a second. This is Mr. Mateus. Hold on. This is Mr. Mateus, right? And here is the headline. It's Chicago's young black men are out of school and jobless. Now, I'm not trying to dismiss Mr. Mateus by any stretch of the imagination, but, that's the headline. And this is the feature. Mateus, 18, was one of nearly 100 students from inner-city charter schools that protested joblessness and gun violence in low-income communities in Chicago outside of James Thompson Center Friday. People of color struggle to find work and turn to the streets in the inner city selling drugs and killing people because they can't find a job and need an outlet to survive, said Mateus. One less person could be in jail if that person who sells drugs or uses drugs just got a paycheck. Okay, so here's an upfront of just you couldn't find a Jamar, like you couldn't find a Malik or something like that. I mean, your headline is like how do I put it? Because it's not. I don't want to knock this young man by any stretch of the imagination. I'm pretty sure he's a fine gentleman, but at the same time, your headline was 43% of black men. So. I know, we all came from Africa, whatever. If Mateus doesn't have success finding a job before he graduates in June, he could join the ranks of low-income young people of color who are both unemployed and out of school. So the article takes it from black men, right? Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, 45% of Chicago's young black men are out of school, and then they go and wrap it around to, people of color. It's that Crayola crew. The Alternative Schools Network, which organized the student rally and runs 43 alternative CPS schools with 3,500 students, released a new report this week that found nearly half of Chicago's young black men are both out of school and out of work, double the national rate. Just on the level of racism, there's a huge disadvantage, said Jack Weiss, executive director of the network, which serves many students who dropped out of traditional CPS schools or face other hardships. ASN worked with the University of Illinois at Chicago's Great Cities Institute to analyze data from the 2017 American Community Survey, the most recent of yearly surveys administered by the U.S. Census Bureau. About 45% of black men in Chicago, aged 20 to 24, were neither working nor in school in 2017, the analysis found. Nearly 20% of Latino men in that age group were out of work and not in school. So, I mean, okay, so Mr. Mateus is, let's go back. This is Mr. Mateus. Doesn't he fall under the Latino angle? And that's not to knock anybody, but the article literally led with black men, and yet it also seems to be centered around this gentleman who is seemingly of Spanish descent. Taking into account women, 37% of Chicago's young black adults don't have a job and aren't attending school, according to the analysis. So, okay, let's cut it off right quick, because here is where this isn't an accident. None of this is an accident. What happened back in the 60s is that in order to institutionalize people of the urban and low income communities, what they did was they made sure to remove economic mobility, or rungs on the economic ladder. They completely dismantled the middle and working class by shortening up. It was construction back then, but that's still like the same focus now. Like, they made sure that construction work only went to people of certain races. And today they're making sure that the Negroes that they let in are few and far between, and that's how that works. So when Latinos find themselves in the same predicament, it really is a matter of socioeconomics more than it is race. I don't like, even though I kind of gripe at Mr. Mateus in this video, it really has nothing to do with race. It has more to do with socioeconomic status. So, and if you're in one of these red line districts, and it doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, they are set up for you to go to prison. They're set up for you to be incarcerated and to be institutionalized and to facilitate and propagate government dependence. Really, like, it's really like the power of the welfare state. It's amazing. Their white counterparts, meanwhile, have fared much better due to steep advantages such as longstanding family wealth, investment in their communities, and not fighting racism, the report said. In Chicago, only 5.7% of young adults aged 20 to 24 are out of work and out of school and out of work. Those young men are far worse off than all men in their age around the country, where about 24% aren't working or studying. While Friday's announcement that the national unemployment rate was the lowest in nearly half a century, Wuest said the trend of blacks in Chicago had seen rising rates of out-of-school and jobless young black adults. Okay, so that's the danger of concerning yourself so much with national numbers, because there's but so much a president can do. There's but so much people, and like the heads can really do. These are things that are best left to the city councils, the alder people, the mayors, district leaders, all these areas. Like as much as we'd like to just be able to point the finger at one person, a president or a governor or whatever, a lot of this falls back down on local and municipal leadership, because they get paid to make sure that places like Chicago, Newark, just the hoods, like urban America, or they're paid to make sure that they maintain the status quo. They will never sit there and suggest ending the drug war. They'll never the jobs that they always talk about are just menial, the $2 an hour jobs. And so, and they're like, oh, well, we created so many jobs, we've done so much. And it's just like, nah, chill. Because it's all a part of the game. Like, take into account, like, the schools, right? Charter schools really shouldn't exist, because that's public money, but they wanted to privatize schools. And so what they did was they sabotaged the public schools and created an opportunity for for the charter schools. I always look at it like this. There's this old con where you have two guys driving around the neighborhood. They break into a few houses and then they circle back and circle back in the neighborhood and sell security systems. That's what charter schools were, security systems. One of the biggest barriers for teenagers of color trying to enter the workforce, other than divestment in low income communities, is often a lack of connections. Very true. Your network matters. The who you hang around with matters, which is why when you go to have a child, the environment that you choose to raise the child in really does matter. If you're lower income, your family probably doesn't know someone to help you get a job, Weiss said. The first job I had in high school, my dad had a connection. First job I ever had, I got myself because it was around the corner from my home and it was a small little bodega. They needed a hand and I was more than happy to help for, about $45 a week. And I was probably 12 when I took on that job. So yeah. Weiss believes the lack of opportunities for young men and women of color is connected to violence in Chicago. If teenagers and young adults don't have viable ways to earn money, their focus will turn to other ways to survive that can lead to violence, poor mental health, and a path to prison, he said. Man, oh my goodness. Particularly Shorty in that red wig over there. Do a lap, darling. Jesus. Ashley Rush grieved with fellow students after 3 murders of students who attended alternative network schools in the last 4 weeks. I mean, this is sad. This is sad. You couldn't get me to raise a hamster in Chicago, let alone a child. So, I mean, it really is. But it's a part of, politicians are the worst because they'll sit there and, oh my goodness, prayers. Oh, we have to do something for these children. Only thing you can do for kids is give them a decent home to go home to. Give them good parents. But the deal with Chicago and the deal with urban America is that they've been incentivized to do everything except for that. They are incentivized to be ratchet, be loud, and with little to no consequence. I mean, because that's the environment they know. And if you don't know any better, then, how can you be expected to ever do any better? At the rally Friday, Ashley Rush, who attends Sullivan High School, alternative high school, in South Shore, said she's been shot 3 times and has lost 2 brothers and 3 friends to gun violence, including one of the 3 recent victims of gun violence who were students at ASN. Gun violence has personally hurt my life in so many ways. Moving on hasn't been easy, said Rush, 18. I'm sick of it and what it has done to my family, my school, my community. We are minorities, we are young, we don't have jobs, but it doesn't need to be this way. It does. I'm sorry, Ms. Rush, but it does need to be that way so the investment class can profit off of, your extinction, your existence for the most part. I mean, it sounds harsh to chop it down in such a manner, but that really is the truth there. Where, the urban America is nothing more than a prison farm. It's designed to get people into prison and to exploit them for, the cheap prison labor or just to have them just to lock them up. I mean, it's chaos, and they need the chaos because the chaos, it depends on where you have your money. A lot of people have their money in Dollar General, and you got your cash in Dollar General, you're gonna be alright. You're gonna see it come up. Those roses that crackheads use. I mean, who's invested in that? The deal is that there's a lot of money, a lot of profit to be made off of the exploitation of those in low-income communities. Rush said the students and other African American and Latino youth need to be the first to stand together in the communities to fight gun violence. This was the same song that they were singing back in the 90s, when the crack epidemic really took off. I mean, it's been the same song over and over again. We can point to white people, society, and police, but it's also on us. No, it kind of solely falls on us. It solely falls on your mayors. It solely falls on your state representatives, all the Negroes that got paid to look the other way as terrible policies came through and took over these communities. The impact on local government is that public dollars are being wasted on jails and prisons that are overflowing with young adults who could have been taxpayers, who said the government's loss in taxes for each young adult who goes without a job is more than $200,000 over their lifetime. Do you think they care? Do you think they have begun to calculate what these folks know? No. Like I said, it is a prison farm. It is designed to, trust me, they are far more valuable, and this sucks, but they're far more valuable dead or in prison as far as the elected and the investment class are concerned. If we wanted to really stop violence, we would employ everyone who wanted a job, he said. I guess that's the end of the article. But I mean, I find it very amazing that the headline of the article is talking about black youths, yet this clearly gentleman of Hispanic descent, like that's the focus of the article. Do you not see how this is how they're playing the Crayola game with us? How, I mean, and this is not a knock against Latinos or Hispanics. That's not no mas, not at all. I don't want any beef with anybody, to be 100% honest with you, but I do believe that it's important that we have these distinctions because these distinctions matter, particularly since, and this actually works when it comes to Barack Obama. Barack Obama wasn't a descendant of American slavery. He, his father was from Kenya. His mom was, a Kansas City girl, if memory serves me correctly. So, that pain of being a descendant isn't in his blood. So thusly, he'll feel no connection to us as descendants. And I sincerely doubt, even though Mr. Mateus seems like from what I'm reading, he seems like a good dude, want to help his family, and that's really what it is for all of us. That's really our connecting point right there. We just want to help our families and live the most prosperous life that we want to. True. But when it comes to a lot of these media outlets and stuff like that, them grouping us together does absolutely nothing for any of our individual groups. Make sense? All right, cool. How long have I been running my mouth? Almost 20 minutes. Fantastic. So with that being said, we're going to bring this one on to an end. Please, all the internet stuff, like, sub, share, speak. What do you think of this article? Do you think that, maybe let's, be a little bit more honest or upfront in these headlines, because I think I'm noticing that that's a trend on this channel. I see a headline, then I read the article, and the article is a bit different than the headline, and a lot of things end up not quite jiving. So if you see that a lot, by all means, talk to me about it in the comments, or talk to me about what you think the issue with urban America and gun violence and all these other things, what they really are. So until the next video,